Hi Renee, how are you doing?
Good morning, Tomas. Nice to meet you in person.
Nice to meet you too. Long time no see. We know each other from the community, right? And so, what's your story? Can you share with us your story, just brief?
Sure. I am going to keep it brief just because I've
Okay.
written a book and people can read all the nitty gritty in there. But after my son was born in 1999, I had a very traumatic delivery. I lost 80% of my blood. And I actually had a near death experience, and it was really scary. And I came out of it and nobody wanted to talk to me about what had happened to me. And by the way, the experience was like I went to hell. Like I saw the other side. It was not like a wonderful white light experience. It was literally like my body being chopped up and surrounded by scary uh, ghosts and things like that. Anyway, I was really troubled by it. And no one wanted to talk to me about it. Everyone wanted me to refocus and say, but you're alive and the baby's here and it's so good. And it was good. And I was grateful. And he was also quite ill when he was born because of how I was. And so it was just like a really harsh redirect. Every time I'd say, I need to talk about this thing. Like, what do you think that was? And people were just like, the baby, the baby, the baby. And I basically learned to, suppress like whatever this thing was that had happened to me. And I was in a family system, my now ex-husband's family system, very, uh, um, restricted in like their emotional range. Basically they like wanted everyone to be happy and smiling all the time and no space for any negative emotions. And that's just not how I was brought up in my family. So anyway, so moving forward, I started to have some somatic symptoms. Like I started to have some, first was insomnia. Like, at night I would lay down and I would replay all that stuff. And I also had an infant and I was having to get up a lot in the middle of the night. And so my sleep cycle was really messed up. And my now ex husband, he is a surgeon, and he would say, like, stop moving around. You're tossing around so much. I have to get up for surgery in the morning. So I felt physically like I had to lay there and not cough, don't move, don't breathe. And so that's kind of how this whole thing started. And then I would say so my son was born in 99, around 2001. This is 2 years of this nightmare. And I developed this feeling in my throat that was this like, it felt like I swallowed a pebble. And I went to all kinds of specialists. They scoped me down and they scoped me up. And they wanted to make sure it wasn't a polyp and everything was fine. And somebody said to me, that's a stress response. There's something that you can take for that. And so I went to my primary care physician and he said, yeah, I was depressed. I was not sleeping. I was crying. And he said, you can start an antidepressant for that. And he gave me my first prescription for any kind of psychiatric medication. And that was for, let me think, the first one was Prozac. And Prozac made me crazy manic. I couldn't sleep. Started having facial twitches. My eye was twitching, but nobody could see it. I'd say like, "Do you see my eye twitching?" And people are like, "I don't see it," but I felt it. Like I felt this thing. So my doctor said, "Give it 2 weeks." At the end of 2 weeks, I was like, this is awful. Like I'm not sleeping. I'm twitching. And he said, let's stop it. So that was the first of many experiences that followed that same pattern of let's try this. There's something wrong with you. Let's give you this. So it went Prozac, Zoloft, Celexa. After the third one, then they told me that I had failed SSRIs,
Uh,
that now I was a candidate for benzodiazepines. I did not have any counseling in there. Nobody ever suggested that I talk to anybody about what was happening with my marriage, how I felt about this death experience that I had had, about my baby, that I didn't have a lot of support. So there were a lot of other background issues happening, that I had given up a career as a teacher to be a full-time mom. So there was a lot of pressure there. And at the same time, there was a lot of weird religious pressure because I grew up as a Jewish girl, Orthodox Jewish girl, and everyone told me this is the dream. I'm living the dream. I'm married to a Jewish doctor. I have a lovely, healthy son, and I should just be so happy to be the wind beneath my husband's wings and be quiet already. It's enough, you know? So, a lot of shame for having the feelings that I was having feelings. So I started taking my very first, I ended up being referred to a psychiatrist, and I ended up taking he prescribed me 0.5 milligrams of clonazepam at bedtime. At one point, by the way, I should say, so.
And during that time, you were still taking
That's what I was just going to say. So they had switched me around to all different things. So I was taking Topamax for migraines that I developed. I was taking Boost Bar, and then there was a lot of shifting with like, let's try Seroquel, let's try Risperdal, let's try Latuda, let's try Lunesta, let's try. So there were 11 ons and offs with all of this while concurrent with the benzodiazepine. So by the end, at one point, I was on 7 different medications, and it was really crazy. And at that point, I totally believed the narrative that there was something wrong with my brain.
Well, back then, it was because you were messed up by the cocktail of meds.
But I didn't see it that way. I was
of course, I'm joking, but
yeah, of course. But I was in a medical family who kept saying it's just a matter of finding the right one. It's just a matter, and so I kept trying. So, but in 2003. I was basically cold turkeyed off of everything except the benzodiazepine, and the Topamax and the Boost Bar. So 3. I shouldn't say everything is 3. There were not 11, just to be clear. And I stayed on that path all the way until 2011. So it was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 8 years that way. And in 2011, my prescriber lost his license for improper prescription practice. And it's really always fascinating to me when I look back at my diary on this, because I wrote something like, "Dear diary, today I found out my, Dr. So-and-so lost his license. I went to his practice and was greeted by a note on the door that said, call your primary physician, Dr. So-and-so has decided to retire." And I was like, what? And the one thing I knew about these drugs is pretty much what we all know, which is like, you shouldn't skip a dose, you really need to. So I called my primary care again after all these years. And he said, "Oh my God, Renee," he's like, I said, "Can you just write me for these prescriptions?" And he said, I can't write you for that. He's like, you have a chemical dependency. Like, you've been on benzodiazepine for 7, 8 years. You're not supposed to be taking that for more than 4 weeks. And I was like, what? First time I had ever heard this, And it was a shocker. And I said to him, "What are you talking about? I never take more than was prescribed." But it's important to know that over those years, my little dose of 0.25 bumped up to 0.5, to 1.25, 1.5. Ultimately, I wound up at 2 milligrams of clonazepam daily at bedtime. And so that's where I wound up. And it was a real surprise to me.
Do you think that clonazepam in a way covered up the withdrawals from antidepressants? Because
it's so hard to know, Tomas. I don't know. I suspect, because my withdrawal was so bad. It was so bad that I do suspect it was masking. Yeah. I don't have any confirmation of that.
Well, of course.
But I do, having worked with the clients I work with now and hearing this story over and over again, the people who seem to come off more easily are the people who were just given something, a benzodiazepine, and only the benzodiazepine. That's not even always true, but like people who have been polydrugged.
Yeah, polydrugged cases are way more difficult and challenging.
They're complicated for sure, but almost everyone has heard that story of failing 3 before you're given a benzodiazepine.
Yeah.
So let me turn this off.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. So then my story, of course, then shifted. So it was, I started working, I was very fortunate, and like there are I'm a very spiritual person, and there have been spiritual moments where things just kind of went, ah. But I was fortunate because there was an addiction specialist who lives here in Rochester. Her name is Dr. Patricia Halligan, and she's very well known in the community now. She's part of like benzodiazepine information coalition, is part of
I
the.
know.
Anyway, she was my doctor. So at least Patricia knew that she needed to taper me. And so we began a slow medically supervised taper, and I did it for 10 months. And the only problem happened at the 10-month mark. She went abroad. She actually went to Europe for, I think she was gone for a month. And it coincided when I was going to be taking my last pill dose. What I didn't know then was she probably anticipated, I mean, we talked about it since, she probably anticipated that I would then switch to like a water titration, to continue to go down. And she had already crossed me over from clonazepam to Valium so that I could taper even lower. But I ended up I didn't get those instructions. I had a big yellow legal pad with instructions of what to do. And it ended at 0.125 milligrams of Valium, which doesn't sound like very much, but there were no further instructions, and she was abroad. So I just went, yes, I'm done. And I stopped, and about 10 days later, the wheels fell off the cart.
Oh, yeah. So you didn't do micro tapering from?
No, I didn't know. We didn't know about that.
Of course, yeah.
She did know, not necessarily about hyperbolic tapering, not necessarily about what, but she knew that I needed to continue to go down. And what that plan was, I think it was to go to an apothecary and have them put into like little pills and continue to go down. Yeah. So I just did it. We didn't know. I didn't know.
Yeah, and then shit hit the fans. And
yeah, for sure. And so the world really, and I'm so interested in your experience too, because did you have that experience too? Like it was slow, like it didn't just happen. Like I didn't just wake up one day. It was like slowly started to not feel well. And like, so on that 10th day, it was like the world went sideways for real. I had an ocular migraine, and then I just couldn't move.
Yeah. When I quit sertraline cold turkey, like I taper within like maybe a month. I was on it for a few years, so it was still considered to be cold turkey. And after I started experiencing protracted withdrawal after 8 months post discontinuation.
Really?
My body was so saturated with the drug. From this perspective, I would say that my body was so saturated with the drug that I started recovering after 8 months. For when I quit, I felt fine. I felt even way better than when I was on the meds, and I couldn't match the dots between protracted.
So much time went past.
So long, and just like you said, like it was slow deterioration of motivation, anhedonia, suicidal ideation, PSSD, and all this stuff, and I couldn't match the dots. And of course, I re-stained for a brief time, and then I find out about surviving antidepressants, and I knew that I was experiencing withdrawals. It wasn't recurring depression or anything else. It was just a protracted withdrawal, and that's why I have no idea, but why it had some delayed onset of symptoms. But it's quite common. Like I would say there is like honeymoon period when you quit antidepressants, and then bam, the protracted withdrawal starts, and it's very often delayed. But in my case, it was way like 8 months, as I recall properly.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that with Paxil and Lexapro for sure. But that had to have been so confusing.
It was totally, I couldn't understand.
So far away. I would not have at all connect. What did you think it was?
Suddenly I couldn't get out of bed, and I needed to go back to the doctor, and he told me, okay, what was the med that you were taking? I said Zoloft, and he goes, oh, so here we go again, and bam. And then I called Turkey again after a few months, but then I experienced like a kindling effect. and then I was good for done for good. And then
Yeah.
I started, okay, I need to overcome this, and then I started my recovery journey. I made another mistake after a year and a half post discontinuation. I was struggling with suicidal ideation so badly that I took one pill of trazodone that's supposed to be like pro-sexual without, nasty sexual side effects, but it crushed me, and I started my counter like over again, my recovery
Yeah,
process.
yeah, for sure. I
So
That's devastating, actually. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah,
Somehow I didn't pick that up on your that it was that long in
yeah,
between. I was very fortunate. I landed also had suicidal ideation, and like we all do, and I was leaning up against a building one day, literally contemplating jumping off the building, like pretty much had decided that I
yeah,
was jumping.
yeah,
I was crying because I didn't really want to die. I didn't want to, but you're in so much physical, emotional, psychological pain.
yeah.
It's crazy. Spiritual. It's a spiritual thing. Disconnected from myself.
Yeah.
And anyway, so a woman came up to me. I don't know if you saw my story anywhere, but a woman, complete stranger, came up to me while I was leaning against the building. And she said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Nope, I'm about to jump off this building." And I told her that I had just come off of a medication and that I was in a withdrawal, and it is just, I don't know what to do. And she looked at me and she said, "Do you want to come home with me and live with me for a while?" And I was like, "What?" And I didn't ask her name. I didn't ask anything, because I was like, if this woman's crazy and she wants to take me home and kill me, great, because I had nothing to lose. So I went home with her, and she had been someone who had been through this experience.
Yeah.
Is that
Oh,
not crazy? So she knew all these healing modalities, and so
oh,
she put me on this path to like
wow.
really clean up my biome, like really clear
Oh,
it.
and did you have a dysbiosis? Did you get checked for like SIBO, emo, dysbiosis, any kind of?
I did not go see any doctors for years. My
Uh,
my story was like, just stay away from doctors because they're just
yeah,
going to want.
trauma response. Yeah.
Well, yes, that, but also I was very aware and had a real fear that if I went, they were going to give me Ativan, and maybe against my will, like via
Oh,
IV or something. Because if you show up seeming agitated, like I was like, nope, I'll stay away. So I lived with her for about a year, on and off. I went back and forth, but I lived with her for a long time. And she taught me the very first thing was that there's a mind gut connection, that we have more neurotransmitters in our bellies than in our brains,
of
even,
course.
which is crazy. I didn't know any of that. And she said, we need to start to work on your gut. So
Yeah.
I started a probiotic. She got me off the other drugs. She got me off of the trazodone, the boost bar.
Oh,
And she also um, uh, taught me, like, I started juicing. I started a probiotic that was really, really good, so that, frankly, not to be gross, but it was all about the poop.
mhm.
Like, I have always leaned toward constipation, like always, my whole life. But I am convinced that I have like a gluten sensitivity, probably a dairy sensitivity too. And it's not anything that would be probably be picked up, but
Yeah, it's very common as a byproduct of medication exposure. Like people get insensitivities, food insensitivities after being exposed to
absolutely.
saccharides. Yeah,
Absolutely. And but also that stuff is poison. It's covered in glyphosate in the United
yeah,
States. It's covered in all that. So the milk is poison because of the cows. So she got me off of all of
yeah,
that stuff. She's like, you're gluten free, dairy free, sugar free, no processed foods. I was eating only whole foods, and but bigger than that, I mean, that was a huge part of it. um, we started some supplements, and I know people are like wary to start
yeah.
supplements. This is an individualized journey. I truly believe that the drugs make us detached from ourselves, like who we are, and we don't feel. So when you come back to feeling, it's just too much feeling. And then you come back to a middle place where it's like, what does work for me? What can I do? What can't I
Mhm.
do? And in this new place. And so I was very open to trying supplements. And for me, magnesium glycinate in high doses was very helpful. And I know a lot of people are afraid of those kinds of things, but for me personally, it made a massive difference in terms of like going to the bathroom, which is opening your detox
Yeah,
pathways.
yeah.
And I know now that these drugs get caught in our organs, in our blood, in our spinal fluid, and we just need to be flushing it. So cleanest water, she had a reverse osmosis water system.
Hmm.
I mean, this was someone who had been through it. She was living.
Yeah, of course.
So I drank only reverse osmosis out of glass containers because she told me about the leaching with the plastic and all that. So I learned that, and this is all kind of common. Like we're hearing this. This was back in 2012. I didn't know
Yeah, of
any of
course. So I'm glad that you had someone who can guide you through the
it.
process.
Was amazing. She told me to stop using fluoride in my
Yeah.
toothpaste. Like it was to stop using some of the beauty care products. Like she's like, think about it. Before you even start your day, you've used chemicals on your hair, a conditioner with chemicals in your hair, a soap, which is chemicals going into your biggest organ on your body. That's before you even eat anything. And I was like, holy, brushing your teeth. And so I really trusted her and changed cleaning supplies, like everything. I really did a massive change. And I'm convinced it's why, I mean, I didn't heal so fast, but by the fourth year of doing this, and some other things as well that are a little bit, like other somatic practices, which
Hmm.
we can talk about if you want, that was a huge thing to restore my gut microbiome. I had never heard of such a thing. I grew up eating, I don't know if you guys have this over there in Poland. You're in Poland, yeah?
Yes.
Poland? Do you guys have an equivalent of Lucky Charms cereal? Do you know what that is?
Just basically sugar.
It's sure, but it's literally marshmallows. Like you're literally having marshmallows for breakfast.
Oh
And
yeah, typical American breakfast.
oh yeah, and like, but I ate that
With
my
maple
whole
syrup. Yeah.
yeah, right, maple syrup. Like I ate this every day of my life from ninth
Yeah.
grade all the way until I was an
Yeah,
adult. And
I was doing quite like I was eating white bread with jam and with cheese or something else, like, or donuts on breakfast, like, and back then sugar was just widely accepted, and I
sure,
started healing my guts once I hit protracted withdrawal, and now I'm on ketogenic diets,
yes,
low carb sometimes, but only organic, non-processed food, and this
yes,
is the
yes.
way to recover. And I had to like lived it myself because
Yes.
yeah,
And it's been really weird for me because growing up Jewish, like people always talk about the rules of kashrut or being kosher.
yeah,
And really if you're there's lots of not good kosher food out there, let's be clear. There's
yeah,
processed kosher food. But if you're really doing it, like it's all whole foods. It's a very healthy way of eating.
of
And so
course.
it was this thing that I kind of rejected. And now I was like, oh my God, now I'm being
Just,
asked to go back to this thing, which is
you,
very simple,
you know, as they say, like, if the nature didn't make it, don't take it. Just simple as
Exactly.
that. Yeah. So
And I will add today, I'm like 13 years off and I absolutely will have some sugar. Like I will have some cookies
uh,
or cake or whatever at a celebration, but not every day. Definitely not,
yeah.
at the end of each meal, definitely not for breakfast. But it took a long time for me to be able to do that. And I'm still quite careful about it.
Same here. Like I also right now do some cheat meals like a few times a month, but I still feel like it affects me in a negative way, which is good because this is natural response to your body. It's some toxins, something that shouldn't be there is being put into your stomach, and then
Absolutely. And sugar, we now know, is a drug.
it
It is absolutely addictive. The
yeah,
more you have, the more you want. And I don't know how old you are, but I'm 58
yeah.
and I was born and raised on sugar.
Yeah, same here. Like I'm 45, but same here. Like we were adding sugar into the tea, to any kind of breakfast. Like sugar were everywhere. But and
But also rewards in school, it's like, oh,
yeah,
you get to have candy. Oh, it's a birthday, I have cake. It's like
and you don't need to take energy from carbohydrates. You can take absorb energy from fats and proteins. So it's and it was a game changer regarding my healing process from this.
same.
And I'm glad that you had the same, like,
I
Yeah.
did. And like I said, I like to say this to people because people food is such a pleasure, you know, it's joy and like you don't it makes it if you don't already feel separate, it's another thing that makes you feel really disconnected.
Yeah.
And it's I do like to tell people I over time your body can and will be able to handle some treats, but at the beginning you really have
No,
to
yeah, at the very beginning, no way you can eat any process because it will increase the inflammation and it will put you in more dysregulative state. But you need to be very, your nervous system need to be at peace and very stable for at
yeah.
least me, I would say minimum a year post discontinuation, and then
Well,
you
and
can introduce some risk.
yeah, and the way I tell people as a coach to
Yeah,
think about this is when you think of your discontinuation day, when you're no longer on anything, that's your rebirth date.
yeah.
So if you are 1 month out, you are a 1 month old baby. You would
Oh,
not
I
need a
like
one.
this approach. That's
Yes, because as people are get hard on themselves, I'm like, you're 6 months off. You
yeah.
were taking these drugs for 19
Yeah,
years. You're
but it's extremely challenging to inform them that okay, it can take even up to like the median of the healing process is 3 years.
yeah.
So the first year is the most challenging one because of the grief and all this stuff. But they when they hear this that it can take few years to fully recover, they
I can't do it. I
I can
can't.
do it, and you know, and I didn't want to hear that as well from other from the community, but it was difficult for me to process it and to accept that I'm gonna stuck in this fight or flight mode for so long. But you know, you have to accept the
Yeah,
reality.
that's the first step. It's like that. So again, I tell people you wouldn't feed a baby, like
Yeah,
you have to really feed good foods, healthy
yeah.
foods. And we don't feed them sugar the second they come out. And we also don't expect babies. Like do you have kids? Do you have children?
No, not. Yeah.
Do you know any little kids? Like, do you know what babies do in their first 6 months of life? Like, what do they do?
They experiment like they put many things into their mouth.
Talk to me about the first month of a baby's life.
Like they breastfed it, like
They eat.
yeah,
What else?
cry,
Cry. What else?
uh, sleep a lot.
Sleep and poop. This is it.
Oh yeah, you mean oh, so just like a withdrawal, the first year of withdrawal, you only sleep, poop, and
100%. And they want
and
to be
you're
held.
bedridden, just like 1 year old.
Yeah. And you want to be held, right? You want somebody to tell you,
Oh,
you're going to be okay.
I
It's
like
okay.
this analogy, and it's
Yeah. And it's
I love
very
it.
helpful because they're babies for a long time. They're in diapers for a long time.
Yeah,
And it takes a long time to heal. But eventually they grow up, they start walking, they make friends, they go
yeah.
to school. And it
You
takes
need to
time.
readapt to the reality once again, like to yeah,
Absolutely. So it's a very weird, like I said, I call it a rebirth. And you have to meet. It required me, and I'm guessing maybe you too. You have to sort of like make all new friends. You
yeah,
lose
of course. Like and because you need to wait until the will melt because it feels like the reality is behind a thick block of ice, and the reality will come back and once the ice will melt, and in the time you are most likely all alone in this, and making new friends is extremely challenging in the process of recovery because besides communities, online communities, it's
Yeah,
and we both know how toxic they can be.
it can be for sure. And you can sit there and scroll all day looking for, like I always say to people, if there was a solution, if there was something that you could do to make this easier, we would tell you. We're not withholding some secret. There is
Yeah,
no
there
thing.
is no quick
There's
fix.
no
Like you already did this mistake in your life. You were looking for quick fix, taking pills, and there is no quick fix for life. You have to improve
100%.
your quality of life by forcing yourself to do things that you don't like. Like when I suggest my clients to go keto, they just quit when they are experiencing keto flu. When you adapt it to ketosis, to ketogenic bodies in your system, you feel like shit for a few days or up to 2 weeks. But you have to go through this to
Well, it's
see.
another withdrawal. It's
It's
another
another
withdrawal.
withdrawal from sugar, basically,
Right.
from sugar,
Right.
from processed food. Yeah, but
Right.
people can't handle this, and I don't blame them because it's difficult to handle this when you are on top of that when you are in protracted withdrawal. But this is
Yes.
the only way.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the only way.
I mean,
Again,
regarding your microbiome, but besides that,
yeah,
you have to do more than that.
there's many paths, right? Like some people try to reinstate, and like you did, and I think everything
No,
depends.
but I consider this as a huge mistake, and it put me,
Right.
it set me back. So I'm not a huge fan of real estate.
No, me either. But there are some people that I know who have done it, and
I
they
don't blame them, but I don't think this is the way. And there is a high risk of crash and of kindling effect. And I think once you quit, you have to just basically survive whatever it takes. And this is my I get it that people do real estate, and I did it myself because I was traumatized. But I don't think that it just prolonged the recovery period.
yeah, and so I'm in agreement with you, but I will tell you, and I have some clients who, and Mark Horwitz too is another one with the long hold,
He's
right?
still tapering.
I know,
I
and it's
just found out a few days ago that he's still like
yeah,
tapering 0.00 of
yeah,
Lexapro.
and it's been working for him. He's working in that he's not totally destabilized, and so
I
I
mean,
just
tapering is fine, but restatement is.
oh yeah, well he reinstated at one point to continue tapering, but I also know people.
Yeah,
I won't name names, but
of
I
course.
certainly know have clients who they reinstated on a benzodiazepine to just hold, and
Yeah.
now they're continuing after 1 year to continue to taper.
Yeah, yeah, okay, it can happen as well. Like
But
that,
it is not the norm. It is not the norm, and I'm with you.
and
I
we
tend
don't
to
have a data to measure it, and each case is so different. Like I have one client from Mark Horowitz who reinstated 1 milligram of fluoxetine after I would say a few months post discontinuation, and he crashed so badly. I mean, Mark Horowitz just suggested him in a good faith, but he crashed. So this is very risky territory to
yeah,
reinstate. But
but I would say that this whole journey, and hear me out on this. To me, this whole journey is one of reconnecting to ourself and to our intuition, our higher power.
yes,
And so, what you're calling a mistake, I just think is like
it's a
taking the long.
lesson. Mhm.
It's a lesson. You learned it, and you'll never do that again. And so, people have to find their way. But this does seem to be the way that people sort of come back to is this
Yeah,
like, it's not fun. It requires a ton of self-discipline, self-love, self-acceptance, radical responsibility for everything that we do. But I also think it's really important that the goal moving forward is to never self-betray, because that's really what this was a self-betrayal. We put our faith in drugs and doctors outside of our locus of
yeah,
control,
yeah.
and to reclaim it, we have to say, I hear what you're saying to me, but I'm going to go a different way. And then you go your way and learn your lesson. So there are weaving paths, but it's if I like to think that you and I and other coaches, we're trying to prevent people from making, like you said, some of the errors,
Yeah, yeah,
to get there faster and not have to suffer. But everyone has to go their way.
everyone has to go through this, and I don't blame them. I made tons of mistakes in my recovery, like with supplements, with other drugs, and but it's a
Same.
process, and yeah.
Same.
Mm.
So I'm also really curious to know, have you done somatic work? Like I have this list that I brought with me because I was saying I really want to talk to people a little bit about some healing modalities that worked for me. So I'm curious, like definitely my number one, I don't know if you can see it here.
Okay.
It literally says change
Yeah,
diet.
yeah, yeah. Oh, well, we're on the same page. This is also my first solution, like
Yeah.
my first, to
Number
addressing
two,
microbiome.
yep. Number two for me is sleep hygiene, right?
Like from 10 a bit between 10 o'clock to 2 p.m. is the most the pineal gland produces the most melatonin, and this is very crucial for the healing process to optimize your sleep without any external melatonin or supplements for sleep optimally. Maybe besides magnesium, it's important to optimize it for sure.
Yeah, and so it means turning off all the screens, which we're all so addicted to,
Yeah,
right? It's like turning off the phone, turning off the TV, turning off whatever, and then like limiting social media and all that stuff. So sleep hygiene, and frankly, my take on this is you have to, like a baby again,
yeah,
you can't force a baby to sleep when it's not ready, but it will sleep when it's ready and for a long time. And so I just say to people, you kind of have to throw away the clock like that,
Yeah.
9 to 5, gotta work, sleep. You have to let your body rest when it wants to rest.
Yeah.
And
But sometimes it's challenging because they do need to work to, to have income to just, rent a flat or whatever. But it's challenging. But sometimes if they can take sick leave, I suggest to do so, just to focus on themselves and aid the recovery process the best they can with sleep, with food, with physical activity on daily basis.
yeah, gentle movement. And then I start moving into other things like obviously I'm curious, like I'm assuming you have some kind of meditation practice or something to center you, ground you.
Yeah, I focus on vagus nerve and acupressure mat to release the tension from the body. And on top of that is like autogenic Schultz breathing training or Jakobson training. So
Yeah.
this is what I recommend to my
Yeah,
clients. What
same.
about you?
So same, I was going to say, when you do that, do you do it to yourself, or like self massage, or do you go and have some massage?
Well,
Pressure.
in my case, I lay on the acupressure mat and I'm just fine. And I'm just doing the stretching, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so all of that is great. Like it's wonderful to be able to do that yourself. And like I do a lot of like self massage and lymphatic draining and just to
Oh,
open all that stuff. But also it's really nice. And I found it very helpful to get a cranial sacral massage
yeah.
to try and get this stuff out of the brainstem,
Yeah,
out
from
of
the tension on your neck. Yeah, it's yeah.
it's to get the drugs. They say that they're not in there, but I'm convinced that it like stays in there a long time in the spinal fluid, in the fluid that's in the spinal column. So to just move it and keep moving it, and that's why the water. But yeah, and then the other thing I was going to say, this woman who I lived with, Renée McLean, I'm telling you, Tomas, I could not have landed in a better spot.
Mm-hmm.
She is a somatic respiratory integration practitioner. She literally did hundreds of hours of what she calls SRI or somatic stuff to like work on my central nervous system, to bring out there's different breaths that you can use for like trauma, and there's all different kinds of breath work, and I refer people to her all the time. But it was life altering for me. I had no idea that meditation, breath work could be really, I mean, there's no other way to say it. Like it is, I think that was like the cornerstone of my recovery was the breath work.
It can be a game changer. Like for me, it was actually physical activity and microbiome issues, but everyone is
All of it.
all
Yeah.
of it. It's combination of everything that I did to recover, and it wasn't just one single thing. But for sure, taking care
Yeah.
of your body in the process is extremely important.
Yeah. And I'll just share one other thing that I learned the other day. And I can't, I could tell you I can send you the link to the study because I was very curious about it. But you know how people are talking about like sauna and cold plunges, things like that.
Yeah.
And also, so there's a guy, I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name right now, but there's a guy on, the socials who was coming off of psych meds.
I know. I don't know his name, but I saw him with Brooke Seaman, like was talking about. Yeah, I know, and he's doing a cold plunges, and I did too, like ice bath and stuff, and it was very
Now,
helpful.
here's what I've learned. This is really fascinating. Women and men, we are built differently.
Yeah.
Men seem to respond better to the cold plunge. Women, it raises our cortisol levels significantly.
But sometimes in the withdrawal, you have very low cortisol, which has very similar onset of symptoms to high cortisol, and this is also the case in.
But what they're saying is women do better in warm and heat, and so they really recommend the infrared sauna and the hot tub for like over 102 degrees to really 103 and 104 degrees for women. For men, that's not great because it affects testosterone.
Testosterone testicles.
Yes. So men do better in the cold, women do better in the heat. And it's another example of how this, we have to find our own way,
Yeah,
number one.
yeah, of course.
It's such a new phenomenon that, like, again, people were looking to, find a one cure fits all type of thing. And it's like, we're so complicated. We're just starting to begin to understand who we all are.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it's
but
fascinating.
yeah, it's.
Yeah. Were there any like somatic things that you tried that did not work for you? Like really just set you
I mean,
back?
like in my recovery,
Hmm.
at first I didn't tolerate well physical activity. I felt even low. Then, like when I hit the gym and I did a workout, I crashed from it. I felt exhausted, and even my cognitive, my brain fog has increased, and I felt like literally not well. But I adapted after a few months, and then it benefit me because it stimulates the neurogenesis, BDNF, all the stuff, the good stuff in your body. The basically the physical activity is very crucial.
And did you go to the gym to do it? Like you actually went somewhere, or
I
were you?
hired personal trainer. I couldn't, I was so, I had so severe derealization, the personalization. I didn't know where I was, and I said, it's either that, or I'm gonna just end it because I needed to do something, and it was one of my turning points in my
Yeah,
recovery.
and that's what I was going to touch on. The other thing, which is, I feel like this is a little bit overlooked. Many people think that you can just heal by like sitting on your couch and waiting for it, and it just does
You
not
have to
work.
actively participate in the healing process.
Absolutely do. And it's one of those things that I just want to impress upon people, because also you inviting that coach in or that personal
Yeah.
trainer, it was a little bit of connection and community.
Yes.
And
Even.
it,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yes. Yes.
It's so important. And so that's why I really encourage people to find an activity. People sometimes talk about like distraction. I don't like the word
Yeah.
distraction. It's to find something that you enjoy, and it may not be
Yeah,
an
but
activity.
this is challenging because especially in the like antidepressants withdrawal community, people can't enjoy shit like
Well, so this is where I'm going. I don't mean that you get joy. I mean to try a new
fake it till
activity.
you make it. Yeah.
Not even to try a new activity, something, because there's so much grief over like, I can't do the things that I used to do. I used to love to swim. I
Yeah.
used to love it, to build neuro plant
Yeah, yeah. To increase, to stimulate neuroplasticity, telling the same. Like to force yourself to do activities that you used to like, and on the deep level, your nervous system still rewards you for that activity.
or something totally new,
Or
or
something
something.
new to stimulate neurogenesis, of course.
Exactly. And so, because there's so much grief around that, and sometimes even trauma around those activities,
Yeah.
and honestly, I work with a lot of people who have been poly drugs since they were children,
Yeah,
and they
they
never,
even didn't develop sexuality like
and they just never had any like interest in stuff.
in stuff.
So getting them.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, just like just so you know, I actually do a online art class for people in the psych med healing community. And it's hard for people overseas because the time zones are
Of course.
challenging. But I do a live, and I paint with people live through Zoom, just like we kind of are now. And then we share and people talk, and it's like people having the same experience, but they're safe within their own home. People get to know each other. They start texting each other. And so it's really great. And I was going to tell you, this is not anything that I did before my own injury. I was an English teacher. I spent my days correcting people and telling them how to write better and grading them. But the very first piece I ever did, and hopefully you can see this a bit. I don't know how big my
Yeah.
name is. Let me
Yeah.
see.
I see that I don't look back. You're not going.
Yeah, this was
I love it. Love it.
the very first thing I did. It was quite small, the original. But anyway, I painted this, and then I posted it on Facebook, and I said, well, so much for my master's degree, so much for my advanced degree, because this is what I do now. And I was shocked because people were like, actually, I love that. Can I, buy it? And I sold the first one. And then from there, it was like, I sort of said, well, if I had $1 for every person who said they were interested, I would have some dollars. And someone said, you should make prints of it. And I was like, how am I going to do that? I can't even walk. I can't even like leave my house. How would I do that? And so this person helped me with that. And so slowly, organically, I developed this like art business it wasn't even a business. It was just started making art and selling these one-offs. Anyway, it turned into an art business. And now instead of being an English teacher, I'm an
Nice.
art teacher, and I help people in not just in the benzo or the psych med injured community, but also kids with autism, with like AD, whatever they're calling it, you know, like brain issues, and dysregulation, trauma, all that. So I
It
love
looks
it.
like you find your calling. I mean,
Yeah. So I do like to, I just want
I
people to
love it.
know,
Love it.
like you have sort of found this new thing too.
Of course,
The
I would
li-
never ever thought I'm gonna end up, helping others recover from psychiatry, especially since my
Never.
history is very, dark because I am still remembered in the communities as a doom guy and all this stuff. And look at me. But this is it's challenging. But I still, every time I have session with my clients, I still feel the grief, and I want to help them like immediately to take away their suffering. But I found, unfortunately, there is no way. There is no quick fix for it. There is no
No,
supplement.
we just
No,
can bear witness to it and say,
yeah,
I was right where you are. I
and it's
understand.
gonna be. It's not permanent. It's gonna be better. It's not like the next year will not be the same as the current one because your suffering will decrease over time. And
And that there are weird gifts that come out of this experience, and you
yes,
just let them come, because I never
yeah,
did any of
it's
this. And you
it's called post traumatic growth, and yeah,
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 yeah.
and
And it's very spiritual thing too,
yeah.
because I don't know about you, but I feel like my empathy has grown.
Yes, I have
I
way
was
more
always,
tolerance towards others, and yeah, and I remember when I was at my lowest, I started like screaming, "Please, God, help me!" I was an atheist. I believe I still do, but at some point, I turned out to God for help because I had no one else to turn to, and it was a bizarre experience, the whole withdrawal, and I don't know how I managed to survive this. I also had the very similar experience. Like, you were about to jump from the building, I was about to order some anesthetics online to end my life, and the policeman came to my house and told me go to the gym. It was
wow.
crazy story, but
Uncommon though, a lot of people have that experience, and then someone touched your life just by showing up in that moment. So it's really profound, and I believe that's the spiritual connection. And I know you're saying you were,
yeah, I'm different kind of yeah, person, but I totally
but
everyone.
even you turned on, had your on your knees, come to Jesus moment, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I think sometimes that's all that is being asked of us, is just to be open a little bit to that.
yeah.
And it is really about reconnecting. And you don't have to believe in, like, I think people think of like God, whatever you want to call it, the universe,
Yeah.
Gaia, nature.
It's
There are,
helpful. It's helpful in the process, and I also had some sort of experience, like with believing in some sort that something. Please, someone, somebody, anybody can help me, and
yeah, and
here
just
I am.
taking our cues from nature. Like,
Yeah,
some winters, you're in Poland,
yeah,
some winters are really long and cold, right?
yeah. Of course.
Some winters last a really long time. I
Yeah.
live in a cold part of the United States,
Um,
but spring always comes. It always comes.
yeah.
And I try to use those. So that's why when I talk about
Yeah,
God,
but
whatever,
when you are in such a severe withdrawals, there is no way. I
it's
never,
winter.
I didn't manage to convince anyone when they were like severely injured or protracted to believe that they're gonna get better. And until
It's
next,
winter.
we
It's
discussed
very
like for
winter.
3 months straight, and then okay, I see you're better. I'm glad that
Yeah.
you did.
They're in winter and everything is cold and dead, and there's no evidence that there's any flowers. You would not believe it
Until you see it, yeah.
until you see it, and then you're like, oh my goodness, look at that! The things are changing.
Yeah,
Things are,
okay. I see you smiling. I see you joking more, and sometimes
yeah,
they
it's
don't believe themselves, and I was that case too. But my close friends noticed that I'm getting better. I thought that I'm still the same, but actually I was already improving. But I had to process the trauma from this experience, that okay, I'm getting better. I'm not suicidal anymore. I'm more optimistic, and blah blah blah, and it will start, you know
it starts to, and then that feeds on itself. And
yeah,
so one of the things I always say when people say, how will this ever end?
yeah,
And I say,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I, yes, when you have more good experiences to offset these negative ones this period. And so the more, that's why I say you have to find something. It doesn't have to bring you like jump up in joy like that, just something to pass the time that you like to do.
Yeah.
It can be
Even
cooking, it
though
can
you don't feel like you like doing this. Yeah, yeah,
be doing good things for your brain.
yeah.
It's replacing, and it's creating resilience and distress tolerance.
Yes.
That's really the key. So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
like fake it till you make it, and I was doing the same, forcing myself to the past activities, and I was doing like a checkups. Like I was a huge fan of rock music. I was going from one country to another to like socio rock concerts, and I didn't feel much joy from it, and it was very traumatic. But after like year by year, I was getting better and more responsive to the
But
stimulus.
you love the music. You're
I love
saying
the
like,
music. I remember like I saw the Queens of the Stone Age like years back, and I fully enjoyed it. And then I saw them once I was in the withdrawals, and I couldn't even jump
yeah.
or do the pogo and all this stuff.
Well, and it can bring you a lot of grief and
It
sadness
was
because you
grief experience, but I had to do this to just
yeah, that I don't like the saying fake it till you make it. I'll just say that. I think it's really about reconnecting and feeling everything, and if it doesn't feel right, you don't do it. It's about learning to say no to
Sometimes you have
people.
to say no because it's very distressful when you are around people and cannot connect with them. So this is like it's a tricky. On the one hand, it's not good to isolate yourself, but on the other hand, it's not also good to force yourself and suffer even more. So
Correct.
it's extremely difficult to.
It's just a weird experience, but it's like I learned about boundaries and like learning to say no and
Yeah,
going toward the people who are supportive to me instead of the ones that keep saying get back on drugs.
yeah,
That like
oh yeah,
the adjustment there. And so I don't like faking it because that implies like I have to mask and hold it together. I started to really own my story and just tell people I'm healing from a brain injury right now. It was
yeah. But
caused
nobody gets this, beside people
by,
from the community. So this is difficult. I shared it with my closest friend, but they were, oh, you're smiling, you're fine, you're good. So
yeah, it's
like
invisible. It's
I told them,
invisible.
okay, I have PSSD, I cannot enjoy sex. Oh, you don't need to enjoy sex, you can enjoy other things. But man, I cannot enjoy anything, so how can you? And hello again, we had some technical issues.
No
Yeah,
problem.
so yeah, where were we?
Well, probably just sort of towards the end. Like
Yeah,
I think probably both of us just want people to know there's so many people that think this is permanent or that there's
yeah,
no hope, and both of us are proof that
yeah.
things get better, and as time goes by, it gets better and better, and you can heal.
Yeah, and yeah, but I also wanted to mention that there is also a cognitive bias among communities because there are like only few success stories along like within the communities because people who recover they just simply move on with their lives and there are only a few of them who just come back and say, hey, I'm better, hey, I recovered, but the
Yeah,
majority.
there's two things I would say to that. One is, yes, of course, people heal and they don't want to, they want to move on and do things and not spend time on. I get that. But the other thing is, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but I definitely have, people always say, where are the success stories? If
Yes.
you try to go back into the communities and say, I've healed and I'm doing well, and then people meet you with a lot of hostility and
Of course. Like, yeah, that's what I like. I still like when I shared my recovery story on Reddit, PSSD. I say like, this guy was the most pessimistic, toxic, and all this stuff. And
yeah, but also then people don't want to hear it. They're like, you weren't as bad as I
yeah, you
am.
were not weren't a severe case, and you
And
were
then
instantly
you
gaslighted. Yeah,
can get accused of like, because since we're both coaching now, you get accused of like self promotion, and it's like, I'm trying to offer help, you guys want us to come back, but
yeah,
what do you want me to say, just sit
yeah,
here and listen?
yeah.
Like,
But
I'm
how
trying.
can you charge money for it? Yeah, and
Right, because I also have to live my life, like I can't do.
yeah, and the same experience. I'm still, and I'm surprised that you remember me from the communities.
I do you were a negative Nelly, so that's why I was so, that's where
I'm glad that I hope I didn't offend you in any way. But if I do,
no,
I'm
no,
sorry. But I am
no,
offended
you
many
never
people.
offended. I just felt bad. I felt sad. I was like, oh God, is this guy gonna make it? Because you would
Yeah,
post continuously. But it's cool to meet you now on this side and
yeah,
see you thriving. And like you said, you're in a new apartment and moving
Yeah.
forward and helping people. It's just
Yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah, and so do you. Like, yeah, we're on the
Yeah.
same page. It's it was very informative and very optimistic conversation we had, and I
Yeah,
learned a
and
lot from you.
if you don't mind, can I just do a little thing?
Of course, you.
Okay, so I just want to mention I have written a book in case anyone is interested. This is psychiatrized. It's in English and it's available on Amazon or through my website. But I also recently had this translated into Italian by another person who was injured in the benzo community, psych med harm community in Italy. And so it was really cool. And honestly, I want to have my book be translated in all different languages. So if you ever have any interest,
Yeah.
you get to do it and you get the money for it. And we can talk about that after, because I just want there to be in multiple languages so that people can see that people heal. And the only other thing I was going to add is
Oh,
if
yeah.
people are not yet hip to it, the Maudsley deprescribing guidelines are the new cool, like better than the Ashton method. And if you're somebody who is watching this and has no idea what we're talking about, how do you even taper, how to come off more safely, this book has how to come off of antidepressants, benzodiazepines, gabapentinoids, and antipsychotic medications. It is very, very helpful. It is not a light read, but it might be helpful to show a
Yeah.
practitioner or a prescriber. And that is the way, and that's the way forward.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Thank you for this advertisement. It's great.
yeah,
I totally vote for both. I haven't read your book yet, but I did read the mostly the prescribing guideline, of course. And yeah, yeah. It's
yeah. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to connect. This for me, the morning.
thank you
That's great.
for joining my podcast, and hopefully will be more coaches like us to help those people, because there are tons of silent sufferers around the world, and
There are, and we need more coaches
yeah.
because there's no shortage of people that are going to be coming off of these
Yeah,
drugs.
and the only way to go is to go back to the doctor, get prescribed another meds, and or be gaslighted by psychotherapists. So it's a difficult situation to be in, for sure. But yeah, but we're getting there, and the awareness is being spread. So
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when people used to whisper cancer, like we didn't talk about it. And now it's like, oh, I have breast cancer, I have this cancer,
yeah,
and there's treatment. And I'm hoping that this will come out of the darkness too, shine a light on this, and we'll be able to have people understand that while I am not anti-benzodiazepines, there are real applications and times that we
yeah.
need them. But to
But
be
they're
prescribed,
overprescribed, just like antidepressants, and they should be taken no longer than a few weeks at best. And
absolutely. Yeah. So I'm real minimalist with that. And people need to have
yeah,
full informed consent before we ever start
yeah,
putting anything into our bodies.
yeah, yeah. So
So that was wonderful to meet you. You started my day off the
yeah,
right way.
okay. It was wonderful to meet you.
Yeah. Great to meet you too.
Thank you. Bye
Have a
bye.
great